Today's episode is actually about exploring different ways of becoming a parent.
In my head, I was like, I want to adopt a child.
In India, if your wife cannot conceive, you just get a new wife.
Do you want to be a parent or do you want to be pregnant?
We applied for adoption, and the day of the IVF was the same day we got matched with a little girl.
Having no children to be inherited literally overnight.
Yes. Most women cannot afford. Ranges from 1.5 to 2.5 per cycle.
Choice of choosing surrogacy, intentional choice that you didn't want to carry.
Yeah, I did not.
You can't do sex determination. They will close the center and the doctor will go to jail.
But if I may ask, legally, what expenses were you obligated?
Weekly fee. Her husband also got money to take off days, so she would get money for that. I mean, we paid so much money. She bought a house and she had a beautiful large wedding. So,
What are the options that exist now, specifically pertaining to IVF and surrogacy?
I didn't tell you the most important part. What is IVF, in vitro fertilization? It's when
Hello and welcome to All About Her, a space where we have honest and meaningful conversations about women's health, wellness, happiness, motherhood, and self-care. So Kunal and I never really prioritized having children. I was 35 when we got married, and I was aware of the biological clock, but I think we didn't take it very seriously. But by the time I became 38, I knew that if we wanted to become parents, we had to be intentional. We tried naturally for about 6 to 8 months, but nothing happened. And then I started tracking my ovulation. I consulted a gynecologist, and we began exploring everything from IUIs, IVF. We even spoke about adoption. And then one day, I missed my period. I took a test, 2 pink lines. I was pregnant. But even in those 6 to 10 months, the journey towards becoming pregnant was definitely not easy. It was confusing. It was full of pressure, certainly for Kunal and for myself. Every woman's path to motherhood, I think, is different. And today, we are living in a time where science, medicine, and empathy have come together to offer more choices and more hope than ever before. IVF, surrogacy, adoption, these are not just alternatives today. They are empowering options that have allowed so many people to experience the joy of parenthood in their own way. And to help us navigate this personal and medically nuanced conversation, I'm joined by 2 incredible women, each bringing a unique and powerful perspective to the table. So our first guest today is a celebrated actor, a successful entrepreneur, and someone who's been refreshingly honest about her journey to motherhood through adoption, through surrogacy. She's embraced motherhood, I think, with incredible grace and with openness. And I'm so happy to welcome Sunny Leone, a proud mother to 3 children.
thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Also with us is one of the most respected names in women's health and reproductive medicine, with decades of experience as a senior obstetrician and gynecologist. She's been a guiding force for countless women on their fertility journeys, whether it's through IVF, surrogacy, or high-risk pregnancies. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Kiran Coelho, someone whose work has literally brought new life into this world time and time again.
Thank you, Soha.
Thank you both for being here today. I'm very excited about today's conversation. I thought I'll start straight off with you.
Okay.
And I want to ask, because I know how my morning was, and I only have one little child.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming mornings in your household must be fun, but also chaotic.
It just depends on what mood everybody's waking up in.
So how was today?
So today was pretty good for some reason. So we did sleep training, and
Did you?
throughout, the boys is, growing up as, little people, and even with Nisha, they've always slept in their own beds. They always slept independently, but for some reason recently, which I'm going to blame my husband for, is now they are like, oh, let's go sleep with mommy and daddy.
So all 3 of them?
No.
So Noah
There's
and
not
Asha
enough space.
Noah and Asha are now 7 years old.
Yes, they're 7 years old and Nisha's 9. So, this morning, both of them in the morning jump in our bed. They're there. We're like, okay, now it's time to get up. So they're in a good mood today until they get to their own beds. For some reason, they want to go jump back in their own beds and go back to sleep. I'm like, no, you have to get up.
Yeah.
You have to get ready. And everything in my house is like timed. I don't want to say military style, but everything is on a time schedule.
Yes.
So if they mess around and they don't want to get dressed and they don't want to do anything, then we're late. And then we're saying, you need to hurry up and eat your food. You need to hurry up and eat your food. But today's good morning.
Today's been all right. Dr. Coelho, I wanted to ask you, because you have an incredible job, I think. And it obviously is, I would imagine, quite emotional at times. and very challenging. Just to start off, would you share with us perhaps one experience that has stayed with you, perhaps that's inspired you? It could have been a challenging one, it could be a miraculous one.
Oh, Soha, so many stories. I'm practicing for 40 years now. And all cases have been so wonderful and challenging. But since you asked for one particular one recently, I'll tell you, is that I had this young girl married to a very famous professional. And it was an arranged marriage. She got married, went for her baby moon, which everyone loves to go, and she went to Europe and walked a lot, and she came back at 20 weeks pregnancy with an inevitable miscarriage. The cervix was open because of what we call an incompetent cervix. It was open 4 centimeters and the membranes were bulging out, and she was only 20 weeks. You know, pregnancy lasts 38 weeks. Then I told the husband and the in-laws that, you know, this is an inevitable miscarriage, but there is something called a rescue cerclage. It may work only 10% of the time. That's world literature. If you want, I'll try it. So they asked their Guruji, and the Guruji said, whatever Dr. Coelho says, you do. So then gave the patient anesthesia, put on a steep headlock, reposed the membranes, and did a purse string suture around the cervix called a cerclage. And then this girl was in hospital on bed rest and headlock for 3 months. Everything in bed, and the husband, they were just newly married, and the husband got to know his wife. He was the most attentive, loving husband I had ever seen. He did everything for her. He fed her, he clothed her. He fed her, he clothed her, he cleaned her, and he stayed with her. In his career, which was rocking, was, you know, in between he would go for his shoots, etc. And she was there for 3 months. I couldn't go anywhere for vacation, conferences, anywhere, because anytime if she sat up, she would deliver. And this went on for 3 months. Then after 3 months, I got a hospital bed in her home and still monitored her. Then at 38 completed weeks, I removed the stitch and she had a normal delivery, a lovely baby girl. I think that baby is mine. Subsequently, of course, I did a prophylactic cerclage at 14 weeks, and she had another baby boy later. But this really touched my heart because the pregnancy brought this couple together.
Right.
And they became so close and bonded for life. Plus the miracle of the child, and the 10% was okay. I think if they had their Guruji help.
How lovely. It's such
And your help.
Yeah, absolutely, of course. But I'm saying that it's sometimes these things can bring you closer together, and of course sometimes traumatic episodes can create so many rifts and challenges, I feel, in relationships also. So I'm happy that this one worked out really well. Today's episode is actually about exploring different ways of becoming a parent. And we have so many incredible ways today that perhaps we didn't earlier. I feel like maybe us at the table understand them, but perhaps some people who are watching this episode, I thought for them, if you could just briefly tell us, what are the options that exist now, specifically pertaining to IVF and surrogacy?
Well, what is IVF, in vitro fertilization? It's when the egg is fertilized by a sperm outside the body, the embryo is formed outside the body, and then the embryo is transferred inside the uterus and it grows into a baby. Now, IVF has been here for 4 decades now, right since the first IVF baby, Louise Brown, was delivered in 1978. Since then, it has evolved so much that there are less side effects and better outcomes and good success rates. Now, in surrogacy, and there's been a lot of advancements which I'll tell you about, and in IVF. Now, surrogacy, on the other hand, is when a woman carries a baby for an intending couple.
Yes.
And then gives birth to the baby and hands it over to the couple. That's surrogacy. Now, medically, in IVF, there have been so many advances and so much of research, and there's so many new things that have come up. Like, for example, the success rates range from 50 to 90%. There is sophisticated protocols where we have ICSI. So if there's only one sperm also, we can inject it through the laser into the egg and form a baby. So that's ICSI. Then we have egg freezing, which all young girls are coming to me for. I do 3 egg freezings a week actually, because everyone wants their career, and we know that we have a very short biological lifespan, so 20 to 40. So young girls are coming. Egg freezing, embryo freezing, egg donation, surrogacy, and also adoption. These are all the various pathways to becoming a mother.
Just because you said egg freezing, I remember I was 35 when I went to a gynecologist and said, I'd like to freeze my eggs, and she said they're already very old. And I said, everyone says I look so young. And she said, well, your ovaries can't see your face. And that stayed with me for a very long time. So what would be the right age to freeze your eggs?
You know, there's so many factors. Because there is a very good fertility test now that we have called anti-Mullerian hormone at the AMH. And on the second day of the period, we do what is known as an antral follicle count. Now, taken together, we can predict the fertility of the girl for how many years. You know,
and when should one do this AMH test?
You can do it when you suppose you are, say, 28 or 29. The ideal age is 28 to 34 would be the
That's
age
when your
for
eggs are.
We have started Luma Fertility, and we actually have an app, the first fertility app which is available, where you can predict all these things. You can do your AMH, you can tell, so you don't have to have multiple visits to the doctor.
Right.
That app will tell you everything, it will monitor you throughout. So you do the AMH, you do the testing. Now you have to realize that, you know, many girls are not yet married, or they want to have their career and they want to have their babies in their 40s, and they know that they can't have their own natural eggs at 40. All IVFs after the age of 40, by and large, are donor eggs.
Right.
So therefore, if you want your own baby, think fast, freeze your eggs, keep them aside. If you're married, freeze your embryos, and then implant when the time is ripe and ready for you to have a baby. That way, you can have it all, and that's what science has now gifted to women worldwide.
It's amazing.
It is.
Amazing.
It is.
I want to come to you, Sunny, because you said that you have a plan in every day and you have a schedule that you like to follow, and I'm a lot like that. Yeah. Did you have a plan when it came to children when you were younger? Like, did you think about, you know, when I'm this age, I'm going to have one child, I'm going to have 4 children or 2 children or no children?
There was never an age of when that would happen. I think it was more about being with the right partner.
Right.
And figuring that out, you know, with your partner, what do you want to do? So there wasn't really a plan, but the plan was, the original plan was that maybe we have one through surrogacy, and then in a few years, like she said, we want to have our cake and eat it too. We want to follow our careers, and at that moment it wasn't good timing, but it was good timing in our hearts. It was good timing to, you know, share our life with somebody, just not physically coming through me.
Right.
So then we thought, okay, let's look into it and let's try this. And we, you know, harvested my eggs and we made these beautiful 6 embryos out of them. Because in the U.S., you know how many perfect embryos, you can do genetic testing. Here, you probably can do it, but they don't disclose a couple of points.
The gender.
Yes.
So in America, you can do the process of, is that also an in vitro process?
Yes.
And then you can find out how many are healthy embryos and how many are girls and how many are boys.
So we had 4 girls and 2 boys. And we always thought, all right, let's have a girl first.
Right.
And that didn't work out. 4 girls went. And then we switched doctors. And then, you know, the 2 embryos that are 2 boys are with me. So in that time, we also had applied for adoption, because the process of going through IVF and through, you know, a surrogate is very disheartening when things don't go your way.
Yeah.
And it can become a very lengthy process depending on your doctor and how many tests they want to do. And
I wanted to ask actually, because you said 6 embryos, so that happens over a period of time, and then
so there were 7-day-old embryos. And we did like genetic testing, make sure that there was no Down syndrome, there was, you know, no genetic issues with the embryo, and then they told us there's 4 girls and 2 boys.
And then after that, I'm sorry if it's too intimate, but I just wanted to understand then how long in the process do you get news that 4 of them aren't going to survive?
Within the week, it
Within the
was,
week.
yeah. So the nice thing is when you're trying naturally to have a child, you have no idea the day that you had conceived. So 3 weeks later, 4 weeks later, 6 weeks later, you're like, oh, well, I'm pregnant.
Yeah.
And the thing with IVF is that you know the second that embryo is placed inside the body. So that is day 1 for you.
Right.
And that's those like scary things that might go in your head, you know, they don't exist because you find out 6 weeks later.
Yeah.
But it's still so fresh and so new, and you don't know if it's going to take, you don't know if it's going to attach.
Yeah.
You have no idea if if the sac is empty, but yet there's, you know, still something growing. There's so many different things.
And how do you get yourself through all that uncertainty?
Well, you wait and then...
Are you a good
and then-
waiter?
No.
Emotional support.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was Daniel and I, so we didn't tell anybody. We were like, let's figure this out on our own first. And then...
And that in itself, you know, like when you know, even like women in their first trimester don't share
They don't share.
that they're pregnant because so many things can go wrong. But it is when you don't share, you feel a little isolated as well, and you lean only on each other,
Yeah.
which might be great, but sometimes people don't always have the most supportive partners.
Well, Daniel's pretty supportive, and we both had the same feelings towards having a child.
Yeah.
And so when we went in the first time, and that lady was working at a gynecologist's office, so she had these pregnancy like tests ready to go, like on day 3. So she's in the bathroom stealing pregnancy tests, and you know, one day she's like, "I'm pregnant." Then, you know, when they did blood tests, and then her HCG, I think it's HCG,
HCG.
levels kept doubling.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, holy, like this is happening. She's pregnant. And then when we went for the first ultrasound, we found out that the sac was blank. There was nothing there.
Oh.
A
So
blighted ovum.
Right.
So what does that mean?
It's called a blighted ovum. The baby is not going to grow.
Yeah. So even though all these levels were multiplying, there was no baby there. And we had traveled like 2-3 hours to go to this appointment, and the whole car ride home we were devastated. We're like, did we do something? Does God not love us? Why is this happening? So many like things happen in your mind, because the problem with IVF, and even though it's amazing, is the second that embryo goes in, you're pregnant
Yes.
in your mind.
Yes.
You're planning.
Yeah.
Psychologically, you're planning a baby room, you're planning in your mind what this baby's gonna look like, you're planning like so many different things go through your mind, and then all of a sudden it's not there,
Right.
and you're devastated.
Right.
So this happened twice
Right.
with the same doctor, and his attitude was not very nice. So then we decided to switch.
In what way do you?
It's just like, oh, it happens, you know,
Clinical.
like, you know, it's not a big deal. And we're like, what do you mean it's not a big deal?
Yeah.
And it's, first of all, it's very expensive in the US. I don't know what it costs here,
Yeah.
but it's...
I will ask Dr. Coelho.
Yeah.
It is.
I'm hoping you're not so clinical with your patients. I can't
no.
imagine.
I was just about to say, no empathy. It's
Yeah.
like,
It was
like a
zero.
factory.
Yes.
Right,
That's
it
what
was
we
zero.
aim to not to do. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Right.
then
To
we...
handhold the couple throughout.
Right. So
Right.
then we
That's
went
what
and
you
saw
need.
another doctor, and she was so meticulous and so particular, and every single level needed to be perfect. And she would do mock trials. She made the surrogate do a mock trial of what the whole process would be like, what her hormone levels, what the levels inside of her body were going to be like after this, to make sure that when she did put those embryos in, that it was, you know, close to 100% perfect.
Wow.
Inside
And this was
woman.
the same surrogate. The same person goes to this
We
process.
went to a different surrogate after. So we went to a different surrogate, we went to a different doctor. And yeah, it was amazing.
I'll come to you, Dr. Coelho, about the costs and the journey first, but I wanted to, because that's not the end of your journey.
No, no, it's a very long story.
A lot of people know. And you, did you start exploring adoption in case this didn't work out?
So the process between those 4 female embryos that didn't take was about, let's say, close to a year, 9 months to a year, to get that lady healthy again, and then go through the entire process. It takes time. And then it takes time finding new people, or, you know, figuring out what's happening. And in that time, we went right here to St. Catherine's, it's over here, and we were donating a lot of things to the, you know,
Tell us
the
what St.
ashram.
Catherine's is for people.
It's
who
an
don't know.
all-girls ashram,
Right.
and they house hundreds of girls there and babies, and they rescue, you know, young children and females through, you know, who've been through sex trafficking, or if they have, like, let's say they have HIV, or they, you know, they get left outside, or
Yep.
maybe their parents just can't afford
Right.
to take care of them. So they do everything there, which is really amazing. And when we were there, we saw these cute babies, and, you know, we meeting all these beautiful women and these girls, and we said, why? I turned to Daniel and I said, why can't we just adopt a little girl? And then he took a second and he was like, okay, let me look into it.
Right.
But when Daniel says, let me look into it, means we're going down this road.
So he'll only say that if that's something.
Yeah,
that
let me look into it turned into, okay, this is what I found out, this is what we need to do, and that became our home study location. And that in that time of losing those 4 girls, we applied for adoption, and the day of the IVF was the same day we got matched with a little girl. And so Daniel, I was on
That's
set
bizarre.
shooting, and it was in the middle of the night shooting. I see someone coming around the corner with the phone, and Daniel's on the phone in the middle of the shot. I'm like, what's going on? I'm shooting. And he goes, he landed to go straight to the clinic for the IVF transfer. And he goes, we've been matched with a little girl. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Wow.
And he's like, do I go in for this IVF transfer now?
Right.
Or do I do 1 embryo or do I do 2 embryos? I said, well, just because we're matched with a little girl doesn't mean that she's coming home. And just because we're going to transfer our last 2 embryos doesn't mean that we're going to have a baby, because we had gone through so much already. So I said, just go there and do it, and let's follow through and see what happens. And a week later, she was very pregnant with twins. Those HCG levels were like off the chart, multiplying, and Nisha was coming home in a few weeks.
So you went from having no children to being
3.
a parent to 3, literally overnight.
Yeah, that's God's plan.
That's
Yeah,
God's plan.
I-
Absolutely.
And crazy parents.
Yeah. And I mean, if you could, was there a moment of panic? Like, is the 3 might be too much?
I think once we saw baby A and baby B, and Nisha was with us,
Yeah.
that's when we were like, holy, excuse my language, but holy shit,
Yeah.
like what's happening? And it didn't hit until we like heard a heartbeat and
Yeah.
saw those babies.
Yeah. It's incredible. I've completely
Totally incredible.
I've lost my, as I said, this is going to happen. I'm going to end up chatting with you and I'm going to lose my
I
train
know
of
so
thought.
many parts, and you've taken them all.
Yes, absolutely. But Dr. Coelho, I wanted to ask you, for people who want to become parents, have tried for 6 months, a year, at what is the right stage for them to turn to IVF as an option?
Actually, if a couple where the girl is less than 35, if they try for 1 year, they should see a fertility specialist. And if the girl is more than 35, then within 6 months of trying, they should see a fertility specialist. Then after doing all the fertility treatments, etc., if they still don't conceive, then we would offer IVF. So IVF is usually the last resort. Now initially IVF was only for blocked tubes, but now the scope of IVF is tremendous. Women with endometriosis, women with multiple failures of all other methods of treatment, elderly women who are older and they can't wait to go through all the fertility treatment. These are the girls couples we would offer IVF to.
Right. So if you're over the age of 35, then 6 months would be
6
an
months.
appropriate amount of time.
Right.
After which they should perhaps seek some investigation or counseling. It is expensive. I mean, Sunny has spoken about how expensive it is in America. I'm assuming that it is also costly in India.
It is costly in India, but not as expensive as America, because I have patients who have gone to America and have that. So I know
I always
the
tell my boys, I go,
I
you're
know
never
it's the
going to be able
difference.
to pay me back.
Yeah, absolutely. I can tell you my own story of my daughter who has 3 boys, and she was desperate for a daughter. She's at the Mayo Clinic, and she did IVF for a girl. And believe me, she had only 4 embryos, and they were all male. So, I said, now wait for daughters-in-law. So, so in India, it
That's a
is
long time to
expensive. Now, most women cannot afford, but it ranges depending on the clinic and the doctor, etc. It ranges from 1.5 to 2.5 per cycle, minus the medication.
Is that
So it
lax
is-
or crores?
And no, like
Okay,
it's
okay,
not so
sorry.
expensive. Not so expensive, but that is what it
So
is.
sorry, about 1.5 lakhs?
1.5 to 2.5 lakhs per cycle.
cycle.
Per cycle. Now, usually a couple would try 2 to 3 cycles, maximum 3 cycles. If they are lucky, then it's within the first cycle. But usually, if you, depending of course on all the variables, but in a good clinic, then 70 to 90% is success rate. And I'm set by success rate, I mean take home baby rate.
Right.
You know, not the miscarriages.
I have a question.
Yeah.
You're
I
allowed
want
to
to
ask
backtrack just a little bit. So when you said ages of, when you would consider doing IVF or, recommend giving IVF, is there a reason why it's 35, or is there laws there, or is there, or is that just a personal choice?
No, it's a scientific choice
Okay.
based on the fact that after the age of 35, ovulation has a downward trend. And after the age of 40, women don't ovulate. And as you grow older, the eggs grow older. And as they grow older, they don't fertilize so well, they don't take, they have greater chances of miscarriage, greater chances of having abnormalities.
Right.
So that is why 35, if you're 35, you're trying for 6 months, it doesn't mean you have to go for IVF. But you definitely visit a fertility specialist. There may be so many other things, lutein factor, maybe a septum, maybe fibroids, maybe, the tubes may be blocked, maybe endometriosis, so many other factors. And once everything is exhausted, IUIs are exhausted, then we go in for IVF.
So my question is more of is it a moral thing based on the doctor, or is it laws?
Laws
That
are, yes,
it has to
I'll
be a
come to the
certain
laws,
age
I think,
here,
yeah, certainly,
and,
yes, definitely. For IVF, not IVF, IVF you can do after the age of, say,
So if I'm
45.
29 and I say I don't want to have children, I want you to pull my eggs out, put it in a surrogate, or I know that this is my partner for life. I'm 29, want to have a baby, but I want you to do IVF. Would that be possible?
Well, if you're 20 and you can get conceived by yourself, then there's no point. But if you want to have your babies little later, then you can freeze the embryos.
I think, do you mean
Yeah.
that like pertaining to surrogacy
That's
more?
right.
Or IVF?
Oh, yeah, IVF. She's talking
let's
about
It's
IVF.
just my choice.
Yeah, it is your choice.
Yeah.
It certainly is your choice, because we can freeze the embryos and you can choose when you want to transfer them.
Right.
But there is an age limit. They say not above the age of 55, 60.
And then you can
maybe.
transfer that to
And
yourself,
to
at any point.
At any point.
Under-
Surrogacy laws are now changed.
Surrogacy laws are
So that's why
different
we have to talk about
We will
that,
come
yeah.
to surrogacy. In fact, before we come to the legal and other requirements of that, I wanted to ask, just because some other people might be interested to know how you went about selecting a surrogate. Like what, and that happened in America.
Yeah, it happened. So I think it's completely different from here. We interviewed people, we talked to people, we went through an agency, and then we came to, we had a friend who knew someone who wanted to be a surrogate. So that's how that process starts. But then you have all your paperwork, legal paperwork, how much the surrogate gets per week, the amount of money, if there's any requirements. You're in contact with the surrogate every single day if you want to.
Right.
It's not like a secret what that surrogate's doing. You
Right.
check in on them. I sent water. I sent, all sorts of stuff home to her.
And you said they were about 2 or 3 hours away from you.
No, this is the second surrogate where we had our boys when they were pregnant. She was closer, so she was about 30 minutes away, and she came over to our house when she was pregnant. She came over for a birthday party, so
So
you're
she was
very,
happy with your level of
like,
involvement.
Yeah, so we were very involved with our surrogate, but that's how it is in the U.S. I think here it's different. Right?
And sorry, there's an agency that you would go through to locate a surrogate? Or you said
So
we
we
interviewed a bunch of
interviewed-
people.
yeah, we
But how do you know whom to interview?
I don't know. You just get a vibe.
Okay.
I guess you look at their history. You look at their track record of have they had children? Is this their first pregnancy? Is this their second or third? How you talk to them, and how easy was it for them to get pregnant,
Right.
or how was their health during their pregnancy? How their home life is. That's also, so there was one lady we interviewed, and she had somebody yelling in the background and screaming, and it was like it was very shady, and we're like, okay, no, that's
Yeah.
not the right person for us.
So what are some green flags?
Whether they're, for us it was, do you have children? Are you a normal nuclear family? Is there a husband, a wife, children? Is your home like a safe place? How are your children? Do they go to school? Like you just ask like questions you would ask any mother.
Right.
How what's going on in your life, and you just kind of get a vibe from them
Right.
of how you feel.
And very briefly, just to backtrack, and I don't know if it's too intimate a question, and if it is, you can shut me down. But that choice of choosing surrogacy, that was an intentional choice that you didn't want to carry.
Yeah, I did not. So
And that
that's
was a
why I
choice.
was
That
asking
was-
that other question
Right,
earlier.
that's what I figured in terms
It's
of,
because
is
it was my
it's
choice.
your
I
personal
didn't
choice.
check and see if I was, able to
Right.
carry. I assumed I was.
Yes.
And what we wanted, because of my job
Yeah.
and everything that was going on at that moment, we said, why don't we do one through surrogacy, and then in a few years after one, we can explore doing it naturally and
Yeah.
me conceiving.
Right.
But since we had three at once, I'm done. I'm not conceiving. We're finished.
In India,
Well,
it's-
it was like that in India
Yeah, in India
prior
it's
to
different now.
2021. So, 2021, we have the Indian surrogacy law.
but prior to 2021, you would have had a bunch of patients
You had a bunch
who
of
did exactly
patients-
that.
Exactly. You had agencies you could interview the surrogate. You could choose when you wanted to have you could choose to have a surrogacy first, and then you have a baby later. Exactly what you said. But everything has changed since 2021. So now we have the surrogacy law.
And can you tell us why it's changed? in
It's
India?
changed because there was so much of exploitation of the surrogate mothers. There was so much of underhand business that was going on that the government had to change. And USA, and I think it's Georgia and Nigeria, these are the only 3 countries today which has commercial surrogacy. Now inDia, all
And commercial surrogacy mean where you
where
are
you
allowed
pay,
to pay.
we are allowed to select, pay, go through an agency, etc. So in India after 2021, and now the rules have been modified in 2024, according to the Indian surrogacy law, only altruistic surrogacy is allowed. That is, the woman is paid only her medical expenses, her legal expenses, and not any other compensation. All commercial surrogacy has been criminalized. You can go to jail. So therefore,
The surrogate and the
sur-
intended
and
parent.
the intended parent and the doctor,
And
mainly
the
the
doctor,
doctor, mainly the doctor. So now with the new laws for surrogacy, you have to go through an ART registered center for surrogacy. Okay, so that is important. It should be the
What does
surrogacy.
ART mean? ART is-
Assisted reproductive technology. They have their own rules, and the central government will approve of an IVF center to go in for surrogacy. Now, who is eligible for surrogacy? Indian heterosexual couples. All right, 25 to 50 for the women and 26 to 55 for the men. OCIs are also included now, so they
that's
can
nice.
also go.
Are you?
Yes,
Yeah,
OCIs are included. So OCIs also, if other objectives are met. Single women from the age of 35 to 45 who are divorced or widowed,
I see.
provided they don't have another biological child.
So
this
not someone
couple-
who is single, you had to have
you have had
experienced a
to
husband
experience
in
a
some
husband
form.
and a widow, and you should be between the age of 25 to 35. Also, there should be no existing biological child. Again, that would not be possible.
So you
earlier.
have, if you had a child, that's
If you had a child, that's it, unless the child has got some abnormality. So there are little exceptions, and no adopted child also.
right,
So you should have no child, and you should have proven infertility.
right.
So these proven infertility.
Isn't all of this
So
behind you?
Yeah. So this is all behind you. You're
curious.
lucky you were in the US, and you're lucky it's post. It was all before 21, because after 21 these are the rules. And earlier with the 21 rule, you couldn't give donate a sperm or egg. But now that has changed as per 2024. There's been an amendment to the Surrogacy Act, and the couple can donate sperm and egg.
Okay, question.
So yeah.
How long does this process take? Because that sounds so complicated.
Yes, it is very complicated, and if I tell you the process, the legalities involved, it is a very, very long. It's as good as hardly any surrogacy now, because there are so many legalities involved. First of all, the intending parents or the surrogate who want to have a surrogate, they have to have two certificates from an appropriate authority. One is a certificate of essentiality and a certificate of eligibility. Certificate of essentiality involves three aspects. One is proven medical infertility from the district medical board.
Right.
Secondly, order of parentage and custody from the local district magistrate or magistrate court. And third is 36 insurance coverage of the surrogate for 36 months.
Right.
That's the essentiality. Eligibility, of course, you have to prove your age, because I told you that those are the ages. Your age, your marital status, you should be married. See, now in the rules, no single parents, live-in couples, LGBTQ or foreigners are allowed. Surrogacy. So you have to prove that, and also your health and your financial, etc. All that has to be proved, and also that you don't have any biological child of your own or even adopted child. And for the surrogate herself, she also has an eligibility certificate of her health, of her mental stability, and also a voluntary consent to give up the child.
So what is this, like a year?
It takes
years?
a couple, at least 2-3 years. Now, most infertility centers who are also recognized for surrogacy, they employ their own agents who then, and also I didn't tell you the most important part, the surrogate has to be a close family member, and they have not specified what is close family member.
That's weird,
So
isn't
it has to be related to you.
Has
by
to
blood.
be, yes, has to be a close family member. Now, close family member in Indians would be second cousin, third cousin, fourth cousins,
That's
whatever.
true.
So you
Yeah.
then
You could
select,
just say this is a very close family member.
So then, but everything is then checked out.
So this is obviously because we tend to find loopholes.
Yeah,
in
so
India.
everything
And this
so
is plugging
close.
all those
So this is
possible
plugging,
loopholes.
and this is to prevent exploitation. And also this, I feel that this sort of surrogacy, the surrogate mother who knows, is not will not claim the baby, but actually is very happy to allow a parent to have a birth.
Right.
So
I'm
helping in the way,
sensing
helping,
because
yeah.
You've
helping.
had a lot of experience with
Yes,
this,
yes.
that you perhaps feel that there was a need for these laws to become more and more
There was a
stringent.
need. In fact, I think, what would have been better, Soha, is if there were more stringent rules against the agencies, rather than throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
Right.
Right.
like the PCPNDT Act is very strict. You can't do sex determination because, and so all female feticide has been stopped. If a center doing ultrasound, they will close the center and the doctor will go to jail.
Yes.
So you could have had something more in that term rather than stopping it altogether.
Right.
But now with these legal, there's a long waiting period and you can't choose like how you did, Sunny, how wonderful. You chose that you adopt then, and then you chose that, okay, now I'll do IVF, and then, okay, then I'll adopt. Those choices every woman should have, but we don't have in India post 2021.
So is there a way, I mean, maybe it would help anybody who's watching, is there agencies out there that help expedite this and help families out? Because it sounds so complicated. Now
Yes.
you're waiting another 2-3 years, you're already devastated, you can't have a baby.
And there's a sense of time and
now,
a sense
now
of
they're
time.
2-3 years?
Absolutely, and you've hit the nail on the head, Sunny. This is exactly what women are so desperate about. Well, each ART infertility center will have their own agency, but there is no compensation, so that's part of the IVF process. All the compensation that is there in black and white. It's only medical expenses, only legal expenses for the mother, and it still costs a lot, for anything from 14 to 18 lakhs for a surrogacy.
So I wanted that is altruistic. Sorry,
Altruistic
costs
surrogacy.
14 to 18
Yes,
lakhs.
yes, of course, because of
And-
all the legal fees, because of all these various things that one has to go through.
And if I may ask, when the commercial component was tagged to it,
Yes.
then how much would that go up?
That was also about 16 to 20.
16
It
to 20
was, but then, and much of that money never went to the surrogate.
Right.
In some, if the agency was good, it went to the surrogate. Otherwise, no. And another thing for the surrogacy, that the surrogate mother should be married in a stable relationship for 2 years. She should be between the age of 25 to 35. She should have one biological child of her own, and she should be a surrogate only once. So these are the prerequisites.
So is that she has a child of her own such that she may not feel the need to
Absolutely.
keep the child?
Absolutely.
That she carries?
Absolutely. And of course, since she's supposed to be a close family member, and that's where counseling comes in. So this surrogate will be, it's only natural that when you carry a child, you will develop some bonds. So the surrogate has to be gone through a great deal of counseling to say that, give broad outlines to say that you're a caregiver. Your role is as a caregiver, not as a parent. So that it's easy to give up the child later. There's a lot
We
that
have
goes
problems
into
with
it.
our surrogate
I wanted to
after
ask
she
you-
gave birth.
Was that ever a concern before you even explored this, that what if, we've watched so many movies,
yeah.
I've seen a couple of movies where that happens.
I mean, legally in the US, when you're signing a document, it's real. It's not like it'll take years for it to go through the court system,
Right.
blah,
So it
blah,
doesn't
blah.
mean
It
anything.
doesn't work like that
Yeah.
there. So everything is, whatever
It's
is
black
written
and white, yeah.
is pretty ironclad.
So you feel secure. when
And
you
so
have
in
your
that
legal
way,
paperwork.
yes. But we do care. I mean, both Daniel and I really did care about her mental health.
Yes.
If she had any issues or if she needed anything, or is she okay? You know, can I help you with, you know, anything, whatever it was. It didn't matter what it was, we would have helped her because
Right.
she's carrying my babies.
I know.
But if I may ask, legally, what expenses were you obligated to provide for the surrogate?
She got a weekly fee. Her husband also got money. They had to take off days, so she would get money for that. If she had to take off time from work, her husband had to take off time from work. I mean, we paid so much money. She bought a house and she had a beautiful large wedding. So,
Oh, that's wonderful.
so it was a lot
Yeah.
that came, you know, from us. But we really wanted children, and we had already committed to this. So, you know, that wasn't going to be something that we were going to think about. So we had a ballpark figure of what it was going to be, and if it was multiples, well, it's more money.
Sure.
And but when she did give birth, she did have postpartum,
Depression.
and she did have a hard time. So she did go
Did
see
you
a
have a hard time letting
therapist.
go? Was
I
that
think
a
it's
factor,
just.
or was it
I
unconnected?
think because I didn't give birth to a child, I don't know what postpartum feels like, but I'm assuming that it was, you know, difficult for your body to go back to normal, and there's probably those feelings. I didn't ask her if she
Right.
had those feelings. We just listened to our lawyer that
Right.
said she
Right.
has to go to the doctor, blah, blah, blah. And we also have to pay for that. There's also the aftercare. So we also had to pay weekly after she
Right.
had given
For how
birth. It was months.
That is why we have 36 months. That is for the aftercare, because everyone goes through postpartum depression.
So a year and a half.
Yeah, year and a half of medical expenses. That's why it's expensive now. And just like how you said, even now, the surrogate, the parents can come in, like I allow, and most clinics do allow the surrogate, the parents, the intending parents, to come for the surrogate's visits, her milestone sonographies, and you know,
Yeah,
if
we
they
did
if they want it, all depends on how you feel about it. But
Right.
it's not prohibited. Yes, they can. It is prohibited when you go in for adoption, because that's a closed adoption. But when it comes to surrogate, yes, you can be involved in the surrogate, just like you were, Sunny, so beautifully involved. Just like that, you can be involved now.
Before we go ahead, I just wanted to backtrack and clarify one thing. A lot of people ask questions such as, what is the difference between traditional surrogacy and gestational surrogacy? So if you could clear that up first.
Sure. So in gestational surrogacy, a woman carries the baby of the intending parents. There is no genetic bond between the mother and the thing. The embryo is created by IVF. The husband's sperm, the wife's egg. The embryo is totally theirs, and this embryo is transferred to the surrogate and grows in the surrogate. The surrogate will hold the baby, carry the pregnancy to term. We deliver the baby and hand the baby over legally to the parents. So that is gestational surrogacy. In traditional surrogacy, the mother is part genetic,
Right.
and that is not allowed in India. So gestation is that she provides the egg, and the husband's sperm is then inserted through intrauterine insemination. Embryo is formed inside her uterus, and the thing. So that is
But you said part genetic is not allowed. So
no. But so traditional surrogacy is no longer permitted in India. It's only gestational surrogacy.
unlike America, over here, if you're looking for a surrogate, where would you go?
You can only go to an IVF clinic which is allowed surrogacy, and through the IVF doctor and the surrogate registered center, recognized center, then you can go, and all these various eligibility certificate and everything is done, and all the legalities and all the procedures are done by the IVF center, and they will employ maybe an agency to handhold.
Right.
The handhold the couple
So-
through the process. So it's not an independent agency. Those have been banned.
So for intended, parents out there, don't just go to a clinic that says we do IVF, we can do surrogacy.
No,
Make sure
you're-
you do your research.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
You should be recognized, and very few are recognized because the surrogacy rules are so, so stringent now. And there are no loopholes. No one is doing surrogacy like that, because everyone will land up in jail.
Yeah.
Right. We've talked about the cost. Sunny touched on the psychological and medical checks that she wanted to ensure, similar checks would happen over here.
Right.
That
Absolutely.
that again the agency would do for you. I think things like surrogacy, IVF still continue to be privileges in India. They tend to be, of course, more expensive. How could we change that and make it perhaps more accessible to our population?
I know certain public hospitals and have made it a little bit more affordable by giving low budgetary IVF, and certain insurances companies have also included infertility.
I did want to ask about insurance.
Yeah, very few, but a lot has to be done, because in India anything to do with infertility and surrogacy is all paid for by the person, and that should change. That should change. I know that many companies in the US, they pay their employees to freeze their eggs because they don't want to lose their workforce.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So that is something that
we should
Only
we
in
could
America.
look for too.
Yeah.
Like, go freeze your eggs.
Yeah.
You're not quitting your
See,
job.
you're not quitting your job. You can be more
Quit in 5
productive.
years.
Really?
What about the risks that are involved? We touched on them, and you said
Yes.
the risks have come down significantly since 1978.
They have, but they still are there. You see, since 19, of course, the risks have come down tremendously, but there are risks associated with IVF, like ovarian hyperstimulation that happens because now we have so much of PCOS and PCOD
Yes.
in our, and all of them get hyperstimulated. So there's hyperstimulation.
So
there
sorry,
is
if somebody has PCOD or PCOS and
yeah, there's a different protocols for stimulation. We down-regulate the ovaries, bring them to normal and then stimulate. Otherwise, if you stimulate an already PCOD ovary, you will have hyperstimulation. So ovarian hyperstimulation is the most common. Multiple pregnancies, pregnancy losses, miscarriages, ectopic pregnancies. These are all the medical complications that can occur with IVF, and failure, of course. Failure of cycles, very devastating.
yes.
And then, of course, you have the surrogacy, which, of course, any risks which are pertinent to pregnancy will also be there. So these are the risks involved.
Do you typically see in India that the husband is as involved and as affected?
Oh, yes, very much. All the, when they come to an IVF clinic or a surrogate clinic, they are totally involved. Totally involved. Otherwise, they wouldn't be there.
Yeah.
In India, if your wife cannot conceive, you've gone through all the infertility practices, etc., you just get a new wife.
Yeah.
It happens all the time, and it's very devastating for women. And that, as a woman, I feel, I wish we could have more, happier laws, better laws, like how Sunny has gone through, like the US. But unfortunately, there are so many unscrupulous people also who have, taken advantage of the situation and spoiled it for everyone else.
So I wanted to move to adoption now and ask you, Sunny, if you can cast your mind back, were there any sort of initial fears, emotions that you remember? Did you think about how anyone else would view your decision to adopt? Anything that held you back for a moment or made you second guess?
Yeah. So when I was younger, in school, I was one of the kids that always helped out the special needs children, and I gave up my recesses to help. And there were a lot of other children as well that didn't have, let's say what I had growing up. And when I was very young, in my head, I was like, I want to adopt a child one day. And it didn't come to me until that moment where we're going through surrogacy, we're, at St. Catherine's, and I literally threw it out there as, let's go fishing type of comment. Why don't we just adopt? And, felt very lucky that he was open to it. Daniel was open to it. But I never had any feelings of what is somebody else going to think, or what, is going to happen. What are my family members going to think? What the world is going to think? First of all, I've already been through so much of that it doesn't actually matter what anyone thinks. We want to start a family, and we truly believe that it doesn't matter if that child has my genes or Daniel's DNA, and we just wanted to start a family, and it was really just that simple.
And do you remember going and seeing a bunch of children?
So there's a whole process, there's a process through surrogacy, there's also a process through adoption, which protects the child. And I'm very proud of India's process, because even though, most people must try, we're like, what can we do to speed up this process? Is there someone
Yeah.
I can pay? Is there something I can
No.
do?
Well, how
And,
long is the process?
It took,
5 years.
no, it didn't take 5 years,
Yeah.
but
It can take up to 5
it
years.
took about, I think it was like 18 months.
And is that because you
Not
tried
bad.
to speed it up in some way? Or?
Nope, I couldn't speed it
You
up.
can't.
So what happens is you have to go through these government agencies, the government agencies called CARA, and you have to fill out all the paperwork. You have to have your home study location, which was St. Catharines for us. They have to, one of the sisters came to our home, did, very extensive interview with us and checked our home, asked us 1 million questions, and then you have to continue with this paperwork.
What are some of those important questions?
Well, they have to ask about, like your background, your schooling, your parents. She checked our home, which it was fine, and whether we have space and just all. Just,
When was this, Sunny? When
What year was
was this?
this?
Which year?
it was okay. The boys are 7.
We'll do
Maybe
like the
this
time lapse
was
now for a
close
few minutes
to
while we do the math.
almost 9 years.
9 years. Things
9
have
years
changed.
ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's say 8.5, 9 years, and from start to finish. And so then after that, you will get put into a system. You get put into the CARA system, and it's like a lottery ticket. You don't go somewhere to choose a child. I wasn't going to St. Catherine and go, oh, this is a cute baby, let me take it home.
You can't.
That's not how it works at all. The child who's up for adoption is also registered with CARA, and there's a whole process. So let's say someone dropped a baby off at St. Catharines. Let's just use that as an example. They have to, if there's no parents involved, they have to put out like an ad in the paper. They have to write out that this baby was found, we're looking for the parents, or if there's only one parent, then the other parent also has to sign off that that child can be put up for adoption.
Right.
Maybe that's why some of these centers are so full, because they can't, that paperwork can't get completed, so then they can't be placed in a home. So it all has to be registered. So then once you're in line, depending on how you answered all the questions, you get put in, to a huge queue. And in
But
that,
are you allowed at that stage to put any kind of criteria like girl, boy?
Yes.
so you put girl, religion we didn't care about, we don't care. One of the mistakes I think that we made while filling out, it says, from what state, what area would you like your child from? So my parents are from up north, so I said up north, and then we said Maharashtra, and then I marked, I think it was like 1 or 2 other places, not knowing, but if you left it blank,
It would fast. It would.
it might
hasten the
be,
process.
it might be faster because it's all of India. It's
Right.
not those selected areas.
Right.
So that anybody who's filling out paperwork,
Right.
just leave it blank.
Right.
Don't check the box.
Right.
And so once you're in that list, you have to then just wait and you wait and you wait. So that's what we did, and we would call. I think every 3-4 days to say, where are we on the list, and how long is it going to be? Because you're impatient. Again, now
Yeah.
we're a family. We've gone through 2 failed IVFs, and now we're desperate and we're very emotionally charged because we want to start a family. It's
Yeah.
not happening. So your patience levels, as an intended
And you like a
parent-
schedule. We know you like a schedule.
So like your patience level, your emotions are so they're on high. So you're checking all the time.
And when you're checking, are you checking with? Are you given an assigned person? At least it's a familiar person that you're speaking to
Yes.
again and again.
Yeah.
Okay, so that at least.
So I just got a message from him just recently, and he's like, "How's Nisha doing? Is she okay? I want to meet her." And then Nisha's 9 now; her emotions are a lot different,
Yeah.
and she's growing up as a young lady, and I just feel like I don't want to stir up any weird emotions
Right.
with her, even though we have open lines of communication. She knows everything. She understands where she's from. She understands every single detail we've shared with her. But to meet somebody, I think I don't think that would make her feel good. I think that would make him feel good.
Yeah.
So
you
the
have to think
benefit
about
is
how.
more
Right.
on his side than Nisha's side, because she doesn't know who he is.
And
I
there's-
never even met him.
And there's no requirement now for them to be following up at this stage.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
To
no,
check on
no,
her
no.
well-being.
It's just, as she said, from his side.
Yeah.
And
So,
perhaps a little added because of who you are.
yeah, maybe. Yeah,
Maybe.
maybe.
I mean, I would imagine.
Yeah, maybe.
Um,
yeah, maybe.
So the Central Adoption Resource Authority, that is what CARA
CARA
is.
is.
I wanted to ask, because you said things are very different now than perhaps 8.5, 9 years ago. Different in a good way?
No, different in a good way, definitely. Because there was, prior to that, when CARA came in, then every like St. Catherine's Home, they could do their own adoptions. The Holy Family Hospital, we had a nun, they could do their own adoption. They had their own legal, lawyers, etc., who would do up the papers and all that. And a lot of, it was easy to adopt. But then what happened, there was a lot of exploitation, especially in Andhra Pradesh. Little boys used to be adopted for camel races in Saudi Arabia, where these adopted children used to be tied up to the camels so that when they scream, the camels go faster. And there was so much of exploitation to Sweden, etc., that they came out with this rule. So now
think
we have the
it's good,
Central Adoption Resource Agency, which comes under the Ministry of Women's Health and Development. And they do the matching. So as Sunny said, the prospective adoptive parents, they have to give their complete a profile to the matching agency, which is centrally done, and everything about your finances, stable relationship, whatever.
What
And
are
then
those?
after
Whatever, but for some people who might be interested,
Yeah,
what would those
definitely.
basic criteria be?
You should be in a stable marriage. You should have financial, stability to adopt a child.
Can you
should
just
have
say, just to break it down, like how much money would you need to have as an income to be
So you have to
eligible
set up
for-
a fund
You have
for
to
that
set up a
child.
fund here. She will tell you more.
I
Yeah.
see.
You
Yeah,
have to
so
set
we had
up
to
a
open
fund.
up an account, and we had to put, I believe it was 5 lakhs. I could be wrong. It could be different now.
Right.
But we had to set up her own account where she had her own money that protected her.
Right.
That also showed that the parents had the money to take care of a child, because it does cost money to raise
Absolutely.
children and take care of them. So you had to, show that. And then what else is there now?
No, nothing. That's more or less the setting up a fund, and then you can choose your gender,
Yeah.
age of the child, and you can also choose this place. And that's a really good point, because
Yes.
that's the point I gave someone else also, because they said North India, and then they had to wait forever.
Yeah.
So,
That's crazy.
and then the central agency, online, they will match your requirement and what the child's requirement is. And the child is given first preference. And then they will give you a list of eligible people. They come back to you and give you a list.
So they didn't give us a
period,
list?
Oh, it's changed. And the waiting period is now 5 years.
Oh, wow.
And and then they give you a list, and they give you a time frame where you have to say yes or no.
Yeah, we
and
had
you're allowed
2 weeks.
Yeah, and you're allowed two sets, only twice.
So they give you what? They give you...
They give you a list of all the children who are available based on what you want, age and...
And no
the
photograph,
thing.
just a...
Photograph, the complete health checkup, everything. And as she said, it takes so long because they have to ensure that the child has no encumbrances. Suddenly a father will come and say, this is my child,
I
and
didn't sign
then
off on this.
it's a problem. Didn't sign off on this,
Right.
so the paperwork takes a long time. Then you select among that, and you are allowed to ask questions also. I would like to have the health records. I just helped a couple recently. I would like to have the health records. You can send it to your doctor. Your doctor says, okay. There was one child who was in the incubator, was preterm incubator, and had some health problems. So I told the adoptive parents, I think you should, refuse this child and go in for another one. I mean, out of humanity.
You have to be so
You have
prepared
to
to
be so
handle
prepared
it,
to
yeah.
handle. So then after that, if you refuse twice, then you go back to the waiting list. Another 5
So you
years.
really have to weigh up whether you
have
want to
weigh.
make this
And
refusal
then
or not.
also then the age limit, the combined age of the husband and wife should be less than 90 if you want to adopt from 0 to 4 years.
Right.
The combined age should be less than 100, not be more than 100 if you want from 4 to 8, and not more than 110 for 8 to 18.
So the older you are, the older the child
The older
that you
the
would
child
be assigned.
Yes, but after a certain age you can't adopt. Number one, the age of the parent and the child should be at least 25 years different. Married couples can adopt. Single people can also adopt. For girls, they can adopt. Women can adopt. both sexes, but men can adopt only a boy.
Right.
And the age gap should be 25 years. So those are the adoption rules now.
So ours
that's
was
how-
we received one picture, and they weren't giving multiple options. And it's such a, like, the psychological side of this picking is, I mean, it's great you're being matched with a child, but they tell you you have to reserve the child. And we're
Otherwise,
like,
yeah.
this sounds so inhumane. It sounds horrible, but you have to either say yes or no in that moment. Otherwise, like she said, you go back to the bottom of the list.
I'm
So-
thinking if the children were at all aware of the other side of this decision making, like it's so
And-
hard to think
and
about.
it's-
Well, so what we tell Nisha is she chose us.
Right.
So we
Yeah.
were sent
I
one
know.
one
Yeah.
profile, one photo, and you have to hit reserve. And if you don't hit reserve, then you start over.
I know.
So you, I mean, you're saying now you might have had some other options. I don't know whether in hindsight, but as you said, in this way it just worked out. Like
Yeah,
so
so-
much of your life, I think things have just happened.
It
So
happened.
we tell Nisha that she chose us, and God sent us a message, and you picked us as parents. We didn't pick you, obviously. We just got one option, and we hit reserve, and then we had 2 weeks to do a
decide.
health checkup, and we requested. So it was in Latur. There's no proper airport in Latur, so we had to fly private up to Latur. Myself, there's Rajani's here. He was there
Yeah.
that first day, and we went there. I also took my family doctor
Right.
to do a checkup because even though they might say certain things,
Right.
we had gotten information that sometimes you show up and the child has like just special needs. And so then we brought our doctor with us. He did her first checkup right
how,
there.
How
in
old
the
was
vicinity.
Nisha at that time?
She was 18 months.
She was 18 months.
Yeah, and she was tiny. She was like the size of a 1-year-old, not 18.
Yeah.
So she was extremely small because of her circumstances and because of where she
Right.
was and malnourished and so many different things. Even though that family did take good
Yeah.
care of her, and that the man and his family, they took really good care of her, but she was so small. And so I got to meet her the first time, and then did a video call with Daniel so he could meet her. And it was a couple of my close people with me, and then my doctor. And
Sweet.
it's like you see her for the first time, and I don't know other parents, maybe they feel the same way, but it's like, that's my baby.
Really? So there was an
Like,
instant connection.
It's like instant, because what you've been wanting for so long is now staring at you in the face.
Yeah.
Who needs a home?
Yeah.
And you're like, that's my baby.
Yeah.
Like, she's mine.
Yeah.
She's not anybody else's now.
Okay.
That's Nisha Kaur Weber. Yeah, it was like super instant.
Yeah.
And within 2 weeks, she was home, because we fought. Then, like
Ooh.
Daniel and I were on like fight mode, saying no.
Not with each other, okay, you mean like with,
Yeah, with
to get her.
with the
With the
agency.
agency, come home soon.
Yes, yeah.
I go, we want her home. It was July 15th, and we want her home. What do we need to do? Let's fill the paperwork. We flew home, got all of our things together, up all night long on the phones, printing things, doing things, whatever we needed to do. And we were able to complete that process so that she could come home. And then we flew out. Daniel's mom was there, and Daniel, myself, again, had to charter a plane to London.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
and we all went there. I have a beautiful video. I'll try and find it so you can see. It's really, really nice. But backstory of Latur, less than 1 month earlier, we were on a plane and we hit crazy winds on a charter, and our plane almost crashed. And
Oh, God.
into Latur, and we all had vowed we are never going back. We're never going to go back to Latur. We're never going to get a private plane again. And 2 weeks later.
That was a sign that you were to get a baby from Latur.
Yeah, exactly.
Really, I feel like there's so much in your life that is just
I know.
Yeah.
preordained in ways that you can't.
Yeah, that's why
Control.
it's like God's plan. Like
Yeah.
Right.
3 babies all at once, and
Yeah, it's amazing.
But now in adoption in India is closed adoption.
closed adoption.
It's closed adoption that you are not supposed to divulge. There's the biological parents.
So we don't know the
You
biological.
don't
So
know,
she was born and she was dropped
Right,
off the next day.
So the biological parents and the adopted parents don't know each
Yeah,
other.
so we don't.
Unless certain circumstances, like if you adopt a stepchild
Yeah.
or
Right.
within the family sister's child, then there are few exceptions.
And I'm just thinking, suppose one day your child says, I would like to know or meet my biological parents. That never happens.
That doesn't. They won't be able to, because they might have to go back to the adoption agency and go through the records, etc. And it has happened.
So we have all the records, but it doesn't say anything. There's zero information.
You're not supposed to.
Now, let's say she turns, I don't know, she turns 18 and in her head this is something she needs to do.
Just studying
she
as
would she would literally have to go to Loctor and investigate, or hope that maybe those people did those genealogy things online, which
Right.
I doubt,
Which
I
I doubt.
highly doubt, where you could,
Yeah.
see
Right.
your lineage or
Right.
any connections anywhere, but that would be so rare.
And there's
that-
obviously that is intended
That's
to keep
intended.
a distance.
It's intended for the security for the child.
Yes.
Because once the child is adopted, the child will get all the legal rights of a biological child. The surname, the inheritance, everything, property, everything.
And that is
and that's unrevocable.
And if I may, just out of my wanting to know, at what stage did you sit down with Nisha and have a conversation?
As soon as she came home.
As soon as she came home.
So what I did is I made 2 items. One was a video, and one is a picture book.
Yeah.
So in the picture book, it is pictures of all of us up until she's home. So her the picture book goes until her homecoming, and it is us in the car and us meeting, and where her adoption,
Right.
the form that came in with her photo and her first photos that were sent to us. And so what I did is I made a video of it with videos of us in it and her coming home that she could see, and then also a picture book, because they're so young. One of the things that I read was you should tell your adopted child that they are adopted. They should understand. And secondly, they're so young, they're not processing.
Yeah.
So every year, we call it her gotcha day. So every July 15th.
Her one day?
Got date.
Gotcha day.
Gotcha
Gotcha
day.
day.
The day we got her.
Gotcha
So
day.
the day we got you is, her gotcha day. So every year we celebrate her gotcha day as a family. It's
sweet.
not a birthday.
Right.
We don't call it like presents, but we celebrate that day so she feels good. So she has a happy memory association with that day.
Yeah.
It is not,
Yeah.
wasn't like the end of the world. It was like the beginning of her life, with us. So, and I believe it did, do good for her.
Yeah.
And every single year, it's, do you have any questions for me?
Yeah.
Just to see where her mental space is.
Yeah.
Because as parents, I feel that feeding too much information then just causes confusion.
Right.
Where if they have a question, let's talk about that question based on their age.
Yeah, I mean,
and
that's
their
something that
maturity level.
I think, every
Absolutely.
parent will
Right.
deal with in different contexts and
Yeah.
different situations.
And we had lots and lots of books like Born from the Heart, or like
Adoption books.
a wolf that adopts an owl,
Yeah.
so many different books. And
That's what's amazing now is there's so much
I know,
wonderful
so much.
literature for young
Really.
children as well that really speaks to them in a language that they comprehend.
yeah.
And there's so much help and awareness. Do you have like a support group, or I know Daniel and you are thick as can be, but did you ever bounce off anyone else or rely on anyone else as you went through this?
As far as knowing somebody else who's adopted a child, no, not really. Still looking. Is anyone out there?
Yeah, there are plenty.
Please,
If you're asking, you might get a bunch of
please let
requests.
me know what you're going through so I can tell you what I'm going through.
Yeah.
But we do have a good support system and a lot of amazing people around us that,
Yeah.
are there for us.
Yeah.
So, I think as she's getting older now, so many things are changing. Her body is also changing. She is changing. Her mind is changing. So many things are happening. I think it's now like the beginning of what might be the hard part.
Yeah.
So I won't know until certain situations arise.
Let me tell you, as a gynecologist, not only for Nisha, but for all girls, the turning point at 10, 11, 12, the years they start becoming a woman are hard for everyone, not just Nisha.
Yeah, I know.
It's for everyone.
We had a conversation about
Yes,
sex education
so,
and when to talk to your children about what.
Right. I, for years together, went to all the schools in Bandra giving sex education. Sometimes I got an education from the girls.
So what's that age?
Yeah, it's different for different
Different
things.
age. Usually 10, 11, 12. That's the time we
But even
give
at,
education.
say from a young age to at least use the right words for your private
Like-
parts. For
like-
example, your
yeah,
biological
right.
terms for your
There's-
penis. This is
there's
your
a-
vulva,
yeah, there's-
as opposed to a lot of
absolutely.
words.
There's a lovely
I've
book
been
called
saying
Know Your
Nunu and
Body.
Chi-Chis
No,
forever.
No. There's a lovely book called
Nunu and what?
Know Your Body.
They're Nunu and they're Chi-Chis.
No. There's a lovely book called Know Your Body.
Okay.
And you have to teach them bad touch and good touch
Yeah,
right from
that we've
school.
done,
That's
yes.
very important.
Now our schools also assist us in all of this. But yeah, that's a whole
That's a
other
whole new podcast,
conversation.
right? Absolutely.
I think we're getting towards the end of this. What I did want to ask you was, how do you counsel couples? Because of course people come to you at the start of their pregnancy journey for various other gynecological
Right.
reasons, but also at the start of their pregnancy journey. At what point do you, if you do at all, suggest adoption?
Yes, adoption is, I always say it's not a failure, it's another path to parenthood. And if there are multiple IVF failures, if there is no option for surrogacy, then one can definitely ask for adoption and raise the see that this is how the adoption process is. And those who really want to be a mother, they are happy with it. So just another path to being a mother.
I remember when we were trying,
Right.
my friend in America asked me, she said, do you want to be a parent or do you want to be pregnant?
Absolutely.
And those are completely different questions because you can be a parent very easily today.
A mother, I feel, is all about being a caregiver, being loving, sacrificing, taking of your children, not the biology.
Yes.
So that's a mother.
But
Not
that
just
leads
giving birth is not being a mother.
So I have a friend, Ninna, and every episode that we do, she has an assumption, and it's usually a controversial assumption, and then we try and get our experts to either debunk that or to affirm that. So in fact, leading on from this, her question, which I wanted to ask you, was that she says most people still prefer having their own biological child today, perhaps in India, more so, even if that means putting their body through incredibly painful and sometimes strenuous treatments. Because when it comes to adoption, they feel that maybe they won't know the antecedents of their baby. So is that true still?
It's true, very much true, especially in India. But when everything else has failed, and they really want to have a child, then I tell them that nurturing a child, it's only 10% genetics, 90% it's what you put into the child. All your nurturing of the child. And as I said, being a mother is just not giving birth. It is actually caring for that child, sacrificing for the child, bringing up and raising the child. And that's the bond of motherhood. So I would like to celebrate the bond, not the biology.
Absolutely. And we want to encourage other people to do that as well, which is why I think that the fact that all of us have had such an open conversation today perhaps might help. I feel like really sometimes there is still a conditioning, like a mental block, which really prevents people from exploring, as we said, not just other alternatives, but just very empowering options that exist today that people perhaps are not even looking at for various reasons. And the idea is, I think, especially why you, of course, with all your experience and you, because so many people look up to you, the fact that you speak about it so openly, I think will really change the mindset for so many people.
Yeah, there's something I wanted to add, which was, a lot of people, like we had spoken earlier, live in joint families.
Yeah.
And a lot of that pressure, also, a parent, like both parents might feel a certain way, but then you have this outside pressure of no, you need to do it yourself, no, you guys are failures, no, you need to do this, no, she's not doing what she needs to do, or he's not doing what he needs to do. And I think as parents out there, for anyone listening, don't listen to the outside noise.
Yeah.
Follow your heart, follow what feels good to you, because at the end of the day, it's you, your husband, or you and your wife and your baby.
Yes.
It is not anybody else's baby.
Yes.
And you're going to be able to provide for that baby more than the periphery noise, the outside noise, and people telling you what to do. And you might have to fight tooth and nail and go to war, but you can win that war, and you can win those little battles to win the war, to have that baby.
Yeah.
Because if you know in your heart you're able to look past certain things, whether it's surrogacy or whether it's adopting a child, then it doesn't matter what the rest of the world says, because that's your baby, and that's your heart.
Yeah.
That's it.
And I do believe, like, you of course have that, as you said, you've been through enough in life to really not care about what other people feel, and you've seen the value of listening to your own heart. But I feel a lot of people who might be
it's
listening
very
to this
difficult.
today, it is difficult to find that courage. And they really do look to role models like yourself and experts like yourself to find that courage and to find the way. So I think it will make a huge difference.
Yeah, your words would really empower.
Yeah. Just as we wind it up, I just thought closing thoughts from the both of you. Dr. Coelho, if I ask you first, to share with us how as a society can we shift the narrative from how we've become a mother to celebrating the fact that we have become one.
Absolutely, with compassion, empathy, and education. All paths to becoming a mother are equal. For example, it could be IVF, it could be surrogacy, it could be adoption. It is actually the caregiving that you give a mother is a mother because she looks after the child, she raises the child, she loves the child, she sacrifices for the child. And that is motherhood, not just giving birth. So all paths to having a baby are the same.
And Sunny, if there's one thing, I feel like there might be people watching this who are on that cusp of making a decision perhaps. Perhaps they've explored naturally becoming pregnant, and they are, for some reason, resistant to exploring other empowering options. What would you say to them?
Oh, stop thinking so much. Just go for it. Don't think so much. You have to do what's in your heart. And if you know you want to start a family and those options are not there for you anymore, you have to explore all your options.
Yeah.
Because until you're holding your own baby in your hands, you're not going to have that fulfillment feeling that this is my baby and I'm holding my baby and it's close to my heart. And I don't think genetics matter. I don't think DNA matters, because if you truly, really want to be a parent, whether that's a father or a mother, it's really from the heart, not from anywhere else.
Yeah, absolutely. Very well said.
Very well said.
Thank you both for being on this show today. I think that this conversation has really been an eye-opener for me, and I'm sure that for many in our audience as well. And what really stands out for me is how far science and medicine have come. And today, with just perhaps a few exceptions, I think if you really want to become a parent, you can. And how incredible is that? And how heartening is it to know that the joy of parenthood is within reach for so many? Sometimes what holds us back, it isn't biology, it's conditioning, it's a mindset. And often all it takes is for you to just shift your perspective, to embrace a journey to parenthood. And I think sadly many people deny themselves that happiness because of outdated beliefs or some internal roadblock. And my hope is that this conversation will help someone move past that speed breaker and realize that parenthood on your own terms is within your reach. So until next time, please stay informed, stay healthy, and we'll see you in the next episode.